It's like time has stood still.
It is, it just won't click over. Gotta be efficient on this. While we're reading.
Come on. Oh, there it goes. There it goes.
Okay, so where's my report? Oh, bummer.
Recording in progress.
Okay, it's 5:15. Call this May 2nd meeting of the Board of Works to order. Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Aldridge, will you call the roll, please?
Look here. Present.
Present. The minutes of the April 18th meeting are presented for review. Were there any additions or corrections?
I have none. Motion approved. Second.
Without objection, the minutes are approved. Next order of business are the regular claims for April 18th, totaling $545,502.93. Is there a motion to approve the claims?
So moved. Second.
Are there any questions?
I just have one. The one with the Indiana Department of Transportation. I've never seen them, do they start charging for
Okay,
consulting
guys.
or?
Nope, this is an unusual one.
Okay,
This goes back to our stellar. We're back to stellar. Each one of those grants for each one of those projects are audited. And needless to say, we along with other communities have tons, but they're at a point, they audited our gateway audit. And they found that HWC, their first finding was HWC had claims over and above what was approved by NDOT. So HWC at that point in time owed the city of Delphi $18,000, and we owed NDOT like $11,000. So, excuse me, after HWC provided some additional information, they knocked it down to HWC owes the city of Delphi, I think it was $9,800, and we owed this amount then back to NDOT for federal funds that was used.
okay.
Okay?
Yep.
But then HWC will be writing us a check for a larger amount, and then we go back.
Sure. Okay. I just have never seen
Yeah.
that working for them previously.
I've never seen one this old, an audit this old,
Okay.
but, and they're not done. The gal told me that they weren't done, so this possibly could happen again.
On the same, on Stellar still, or on the same?
On Stellar, on Gateway Trail.
Gateway Trail.
Okay, thank you, Lynn.
Any other questions? All in favor of approving the claims for $545,502.93, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. JT Lou, can you update us on the status of the properties?
Yes, on 411 Franklin, we had a lengthy discussion on, we're very pleased with the report that they had, including the abatement items that we discussed, the items on the porch have been removed. We still have a dumpster on the property where they did some more cleanup from the interior, that the items that were on the porch that we had discussed have been removed. They also boarded up a small, probably a dog door on that building, so we wouldn't see trash and debris coming out of that. So they completed those abatement items. Obviously, we continue to monitor it for the vegetation. They did mow since we were down there on Friday. We'll continue to monitor the property, and then obviously if that noxious weeds or any vegetation meet the criteria, then we'll be serving another least those abatement items that we discussed that we completed. On the other project, of course, Cook Street, we continue to monitor that just for now for the, noxious weeds, rank vegetation. Once it hits that point, someone will get a notice issued there if it's not mowed. On 402 South Washington Street, that we talked at length about also, after our last meeting, we formally issued a notice to abate, and the deadline was the 29th to have the work completed. The work's not been completed. Since our last meeting, of course, they had boarded up the Front Street side. On Friday afternoon, he did reach out. He was down at the property. We noticed earlier in the week that he had brought a trailer in, a utility trailer, to do some of the work. He did reach out and ask if I could come down and meet him Friday, which I did. And I explained to him, reiterated again, this work's got to get completed. He talked about some plans and again, wanting to get it done, get the skid steer in, and talked about on the inside of the building that could be difficult. So then when I left Friday, I went back down this morning to take a look, do what I did, and he basically boarded up another window on the other side of the building, and some other smaller stuff was picked up in the utility trailer. The work has not been completed by the 29th. So the question to me is, are you optimistic that he will complete it? I'm not optimistic. Again, he was here Friday. He did bring a utility trailer in last week, and he was in Friday. But so I don't have a great deal of optimism in him to complete the work.
Did he give you any kind of, when you were down talking to him, did he give you a schedule for when he expected to be back and working on the property?
He did tell me that his plan was to, next step, he was wanting to get the skid steer in and get all the exterior cleaned up. We kind of walk around the property and kind of look at this, that always needs to go. There's some tires there, so I gave him information on where the tires could go here locally to recycle the tires. And it spoke like that was going to be very quick, but he said he had called on Friday to try to get one. The place he called, he wasn't able to get one. So he talked like that was his next step, and it seemed like it was going to be soon to get that skid steer down there and maybe try to address the inside back part of the building. And I told him, I said, sir, I will certainly share this report of works on Monday. But again, with the abatement notice statement, nothing's work what's to be completed. Certainly. The quotes we got, two quotes. One, Cooler was for $35,000. Now that did include the walls, taking down the back part of the building, the walls, and then also the flooring. And then there were two options from Seagulls. One was $30,898.89, and then the other, which would have been to leave the walls and the flooring, was $24,098.89.
So did you relay those prices to him? If he's having a hard time getting someone lined up, did you let him know that you've reached out?
I did.
People who got him immediately lined up?
Yes, in fact, we reiterated that we had got two quotes, and I said they were gonna bring some heavier equipment in, and he was like, well, maybe I need to look at that. You have no price on it. I said, well, it's between 20 to 35,000.
What was your take on that when you told him that?
I'm sorry?
What was your take on that when you told him that?
That he was shocked that it was that amount, and obviously, it didn't seem like, he then didn't ask me for, well, let me call them and let me have them get out here to get this accomplished.
I guess the
So
question.
did you press him on,
Yes. This has got to get done, and then that was when he said, you're gonna get a skid steer out here. And I'm disappointed, because it certainly sounded like it was gonna happen on the weekend, and then certainly today, there's been, since I was down there, maybe some little stuff with the trailer, and then a window boarded out.
but he didn't reach out to you over the weekend?
He did not.
Or today?
He did not.
My question is, how long will this go on?
Go on quite a while already, and,
I mean, the price tag is expensive, but I really think that we can't just keep letting them go on with this.
And also keep in mind, these pricing we have was before he did board up the Water Street side, so these amounts would be somewhat less, because he has at least boarded up the Water Street sides.
are there, how many windows remaining on the
There'd be, yeah, I'd say six, there's some upper level too that have been broken
Now
out.
where there's, kids can't get in and out of it. It's-
Now, there's still a few where
So,
unfortunately some kids could,
yeah, if we could get the lower level, boarded up, right away, then, I mean, that's the crucial thing. If kids can still get in there, that's not good, obviously. So, let's reach out, if you don't, the Board of Works agrees to, get updated, quotes, I guess, from Siegel and from Coomer, leaving the walls and floor intact, taking out the boarding up since, except the 3 windows or whatever is remaining.
Okay.
And, is there another contractor that anyone would recommend other than Siegel or Coomer, so we can get it through? Did you say something, Ken?
So they're both local, and I don't know of any others that have equipment to do that, so. I have no idea, but.
So, on the 16th, we will proceed with, if he doesn't have work done by our next meeting, then we need to abate.
Yeah, this is the last chance.
So this is his last,
I like the effort, but goodness,
I mean, we can't just keep letting this go on and on and on. So, I would say this would be the last chance, this is it.
It appears the bids are pretty competitive. The two bids are really close, they're not like way off, one's 25 and one's 80, and they're close. So, it's a lot of work. It's like building.
so.
I mean, I think the sticker shop is kind of what's getting like everyone about it, but at the same time, though, it's gotta get done. And we can't just keep letting it go on and on, because that was a good example later on down the road, if we keep having this problem. So it needs to be, this is it. In my opinion, this would be it.
So, May 16th, he hasn't made substantial progress and shows that, the work is being done, including, removal of materials in that back part, then the city will do abatement and will, receive the bill for it.
are there any other properties that you'd like any updates or? Okay, thank you.
thank you, Lou. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, the first new business item is an excavation permit from Wilson Construction for driveway cuts on Hackett Street and catch basin and storm drain. Jeff, would you like to present your plans?
Had a very interesting meeting this afternoon with Dan and Mike now. They're very sharp people. And we were talking about the lot where Dan was about a lot more interested in probably pretty good. And he made a comment, he said, what you need doing with drainage, it doesn't take an engineer to do it, he said, that's what I did all my life. He said, you need a 10-inch pipe from the front of the lot, the back of the lot, into the canal. And we were discussing this, and I said, how's it going? He said, the canal's about 4 inches higher than it needs to be right now for boats. He said that pipe needs to lay on the ground, we'll ground that now between the two homes, they'll build a trail on top of it. But you know, they're talking about building the trail entrance, and they need part of our land to do that, part of my land for that. And this is, it's gonna have an entrance on the portion street and an entrance at the other end. Entrance, that's it's gonna go around. And he said you need to drain the property, but he said that fill is put in there. He said everybody blames the fill we added, but the fill we added was on the canal side. He said the bank used to come and go like this. He said now they level it out. But he suggested 10-inch pipe, catch basin at the front, drop the gutters in the 10-inch pipe, and take it down over the hill, and the pipe needs to go clear to the canal. Dump right into it. Not let her run down the hill, he said, it needs to go clear to the canal.
So this path, when I reached out to him before this, even any of this started, he said that there was no
you,
But I haven't heard anything different.
when you see the gleam in Dan's eyes, you know what's gonna happen. I've seen that gleam many times, and he said, we haven't got the funding. He said, but we need to go ahead and get the land from you, they need 10 foot off the whole corner to get 45 to get the steps to go down. And he said, they will happen, and Dan's been here, everybody else happened down there, I have.
Right. And you gave
No
your time
problem.
frame.
So,
He said, not in the real near future, but he said, I think it'll happen quicker than what you might think.
That's what he told me, it's not in there. So I don't think they've discussed it either. Well, they've obviously discussed it, but not, let's nail down a date and move forward with this one.
I think from the reaction I got today, I think it'll move quicker, maybe quicker now since we're putting the homes in there than it did before. We talked about homes, we're trying to use the siding to get something canal air, we're not perfect with what we do, but I looked at the canal building over the weekend, trying to figure out, we're gonna put this siding on, it's on vinyl windows, or recess the vinyl windows in, and give it enough to give it a little, make it look like a canal air in that area. As far as course, you'd like to see, we'd like to see sidewalk on the street out there, there's a street out there, sidewalk is pretty curved, but that's impossible, the city still afford to do. But he said the water's been there for a long time, it's not something that's just happening in the future, but I don't know that because I don't pay attention to it. I don't approve that water district, never pay attention. Do you agree with that, Aaron? The water problem has been there for quite a few years.
Yes, so the water problem actually started when Underhill filled that in, because the road water couldn't get off the roadway. Before that lot just dropped off to that.
Do you somewhat agree? He said a 10-inch pipe with a catch basin up front, and the gutters in it, also.
Say that again?
He said a 10-inch pipe from the front property to the back to help to get part of it off, and then the gutters in that same 10-inch pipe down over the hill.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that wouldn't take care of it, like you and I talked there, my only concern is how do we collect the water out of the street for you? And we decided that maybe the fastest, most easiest, because obviously that whole street needs done, so that street needs curved, it needs paved, I gotta figure out where to actually take that water. So in discussion, we discussed that if you put it in, if we collected rainwater from the street, I just can't approve that because we're not in business to put stormwater into private property. I'm not gonna dispute that that's probably the easiest, fastest thing because I've turned the project into, our engineers to look at for the next CCNG round. So if you get your house built and we don't collect that water somehow, or if Jeff doesn't collect that water, he's gonna have water sitting in brand new driveways because I have nowhere to put it right now. So the easiest fix would truly be for Mr. Watson to put a pipe in and get rid of it, providing that road has enough fall in it, or if I have to lay a wedge where we get it to drain off on the shoulder. But I told him that we have to take a look at it. I wasn't sure about putting water into the canal and actually collecting road water from the street into a private drain in the event that something was to happen.
My thoughts on to, not an engineer, take that back. I would say that I would stop the concrete 6 or 8 foot from the road for asphalt there, because what happens is somebody drive across that concrete when we get a short time. There would stop the concrete 6 foot from the road.
Yeah, so if the catch basin was to go in, the low spot is pretty close to about, when we were out there, pretty close to where the center of your two houses are gonna be. We thought maybe it'd be 6, 8 feet to the west, if you will. Might have to be a swale to get it to that structure.
Yeah, I think, from talking to Dan, we would put the pipe as close to the house on that side as we could, because that's where the water.
Because that's where the water is.
I wanna keep away from the center anyhow, because we're wooden privacy fence between the buildings.
And you wouldn't want the structure out too close to the road if we were to permit something like that.
If you think you could help me some of the water off the road.
It's got very little fall currently. If there's a way to possibly lay a wedge, I'd have to get an asphalt guy in to see if they could, to lay a wedge, make sure that it would drain. This would be a temporary fix. The long-term goal would to be get the curbs in, get the road paved. It holds water to the west and some driveways too, towards the canal or Indiana Street. So the street needs work from Washington around the corner. But I just don't think I can get it done in time for Mr. Watson. I mean, he's gonna put driveways in, he's ready to build.
How can I do it and not make it probably worse than what I'm looking at?
Or a substantial, when it does happen, it's not as huge. what you put in now that it has to be taken out of the,
So if,
don't wanna.
if he puts the structure and pipe in currently, and we build a swell off the road, and we can get the road to drain, anything, he's gonna be off the roadway. So worst case scenario is later on, if we do that, and that structure is no longer needed, he's gonna be out the cost of the structure. The structure would be removed, if the road's wide enough to permit curves, that gets tore out, dirt gets put back in. I talked to him about it, he's put the driveway out currently, make sure we tool a joint in, so that we have a joint maybe go back to, if we do the tie-in, and then we move on from there, but.
I still have a better drain, so then that 10-inch pipe will be wasted.
No, and with that being said, you'd be collecting most of that water, so it wouldn't be wasted really, as long as we got it out of the way far enough that we felt, if the road needed to be widened, and with, I'm not an engineer here, so I don't know what we have to happen down there, but, hopefully we get it out of the way enough, or worst case scenario, that would be a part of the project, and we would have to make it work.
See, I thought you brought up the hill and let the water disperse on the ground. He said, no, you take it clear to the canal. He said, that's the way they did the building down there, the canal structure. You gotta take it to the canal. Or that's what, you know, he owns that thing down there. And he basically said, this is what I want. He's for a long time now.
It's actually owned by the city, but you're right.
Without him, it never would have happened.
Yeah, oh, no, I mean, it's just that, you know, the city funds it because of, you know, match on grants, but yes, Dan is the, certainly soils engineer, and he has done all of the planning and execution out there, so no question about that. You know, and it sounds as if, they have plans to move forward on the trails, which is also very good. Presumably they've got your blessing in terms of easement, and they just need to approach the other property owners along that and get their funds together and start work on that, which would be excellent. Realistically for us, you know, we did get the approval for the community crossings project for 2022-1, round one. Our top priority project was all that got funded. And that's Adams Street, the reconstruction on it with storm drains and, sidewalk on one side and you know, pretty much a redo of it. So realistically, we have those projects unless we can fund some of them locally, the ones that for microseal and sealing that we are not gonna get done on the community crossings this year, so we'll have to use some local funds on those. We could plan for this in our next round, which may not be until 2023. We have money for the sidewalk.
Do that part till you get the.
We have to have,
Do the whole-
the road has to be started and done too. I mean, we don't have an answer for the rest of it today.
Yeah, I just couldn't provide an answer to him as far as our, because the whole street was done, it needs walk. We should have walk if possible.
Would you raise the street up a foot there to make a thing, or would you just put a catch basin at that point and try to catch the water running?
I can't tell you what they would, sometimes the profile of the road has to change. You know, it just depends. Unfortunately, not an engineer, I wasn't that smart, so I never went to school. Sometimes it changes, sometimes it stays the same. We don't like to change too much because of cost. You know, if there's something we can do and use existing profile, a lot of times we will, but sometimes you do have to change it a little bit to make it work.
Well, our road engineer is in our room. He is not familiar with this road, with this project, so, you know, this would be something that we would try to get, on the agenda relatively quickly. Quickly in this sense is likely next year, for submission to end up with community
I
process.
just didn't have a good answer.
Or if it's not a hugely expensive project and we can cover it locally, then, you know, we can look at that. So-
Good news, it's in the very, we hope very near future, not very, near future, it's on the radar.
So are you gonna be okay with, if we do redo the road, say next year, the road gets redone, you have to take that part out? Are you okay with the cost on that? Just,
We might have to make it work at that point, we'd have to come to a mutual agreement and just say, close our eyes and pick a spot and hope we're out of the way far enough that, you know, when we came through, because you'll still have the driveway drains in there, you're gonna want to.
I didn't tell Dan the size of the tile, he just brought up 10 inch, do you think that's relatively well to just your thinking that?
For the water, yeah, it'll move a lot.
He said, put 10 inch pipe, double it with it, make it sound so simple.
What's the size of the footprint of the other structures?
1,300 square foot home, the same home we built on out here on the highway, and so I've got, 2,040 count the garage. 3-car garage, you can't sell any more without 3-car garage.
Both homes?
Hmm?
Both homes.
They're mirror neighbors, left and right.
1165? Is that 1165 Main?
So is there a motion to approve the excavation today? Subject to the discussion with them?
I will be abstaining due to the, other part of the project that's involved in my other office.
I will second the motion. All those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
And aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
And next on the agenda is a fence. Yeah. The fence goes at 915 Samuel Milroy, and that'd be, you want to just address us, Jacob and Mr. Grist, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jacob Grist. I live on 915 Signal Milroy. Bought the house last December and tore out the existing fence that was there and decided I would like to put in a new fence. Obviously had a discussion with Aaron about the right-of-ways and the limitations that come with that. I don't know how much you guys want me to get into it, but just between privacy reasons, last year I had a fire pit, put it out in my yard, was stolen about 2 days later. I would like to have maybe a grill or some patio furniture outside, that's why I would like to ask for a slight deviation, also with the understanding that, you know, with that comes risk that the city could push it over with snow plow or things like that, and I would be perfectly fine with that, just repairing and screwing it. But, I mean, other than privacy, obviously it's a smaller yard, I'd like to have something sort of encapsulated for a dog, don't get on the same way. I guess that's about it for any questions or anything. Sorry if I didn't touch on any of the essentials of that, this is kind of my first
No, you're fine.
jump into these sort of things.
So, the question I have is, we're looking at the property now, and I think the red is the proposed fence. Is that, where your line is now?
The one that I had staked, roughly, I guess obviously with it being just ink pen, you cannot see what my intention would be. On the Sam Milroy side, there's a chain link fence there, that was formerly, Jack's house, and I would like to essentially just match up with where that is, then bring it to my driveway and then up to the garage. And then obviously replace the fence there where, Jack's children took out the, wooden and wire fence, just replace that, just for the sake of dividing his yard and mine. And then the back, essentially where the back of my shed is probably 3.5 feet off the road. You can't really see that on there. So I want it to be 3.5 feet off the road on the Franklin side is what that would be. And then on the Connolly side, that's essentially where I'd like for there to be some discussion. And obviously, I'm okay with compromise. There's a lot of different perspectives in here. The issue is with the line of sight being 35 feet and then anything between 2 and 10 feet. So obviously being back 35 feet is not an issue with me at all. That still leaves me plenty of yard for a dog, for, you know, having a cookout or something. But where I'd like there to be kind of a deviation for this to be brought up for consideration is where the what would be on the computer screen is top right corner is instead of coming back towards the house where, the right of way actually cuts through the corner of my bedroom, moves out of my closet, is actually to have it essentially be a 45-degree angle, so that whenever you come up to the yield sign there on the intersection of Franklin and Connolly, your line of sight is not obstructed at all.
So you would propose kind of cutting, maybe this is 45?
No, 45, my apologies, would be on the top right. There we can see it kind of jut out where it extends outside what the right of way is now. You would not be obstructing the vision for anybody on any of the 3 streets, but it would also allow me to have a little bit more yard.
So, can you see where my cursor is?
Yes, ma'am.
So is that line what you're proposing now?
It would be about a foot inside of that on each side, but yes.
So that's still what the true property line, that part is. So my question is, and I agree with you about the fence, because everybody wants the privacy and all that. So the red that you have now is depicting to be outside of your property line, correct?
Yes, sir, outside of the right of way.
Yeah. So that's,
It's all right.
right, that's where, for me, I get calls, asking about fences in the county and the city and all that, and I immediately refer them to whatever entity it involves, the city of Delphi, Cayman, or whatever, so it's tricky because I tell them, we don't have any rules other than what the city says, and if it's city property, the city has to make that decision, but if we allowed it to go outside of your property lines onto the city, and in 5 years we do a road project, now the fence is essentially there, we're never gonna be tearing down.
Is there any sort of agreement that I could tear out the fence, incur all the costs, anything like that? I understand that if you guys hit it with a snowplow in the winter, it's up to me to fix it for the summer.
Yeah, I think we could probably do some kind of a letter of understanding. I don't know how legally binding that would be, Justin. Our attorney is shaking his head and looking, rolling his eyes, but.
The only concern with that would be, let's say he sells his house, he's not gonna carry over.
Right, okay. So you have to hold on to this house forever.
Aaron, have you been down there?
I have.
What's your thoughts on that?
So, talking it over with Mr. Gris, obviously, I was concerned about going in the right of way just because of that. The line of sight off of Franklin Street that he's proposing would help that a little better. I also talked to Mr. Gris about the one over there at the corner of Conley and San Railroad. Pulling up to that stop sign, that line of sight, the fence that he's got drawn in does replicate it being on his side. However, that line of sight, I think still, according to zoning ordinance, I think still applies, doesn't it? So I told him there might need a small alteration there. When you pull up, you gotta nose forward a little bit. Those, other than the fence being in the back, I told him I couldn't approve it, it's clearly in the right of way. But, I had suggested that one modification up front as well.
Unfortunately, it looks like, with the church building and maybe a corner of your house are, literally, in the right of way, so. And we don't know that the beacon lines that are on here are, 100% accurate, but, if we measure from the center of that roadway, which I think Aaron has done, it would appear that, that while I think where he painted some lines on their property, but this corner of your house is kind of, touching the right of way or in it. And, the church is definitely in it. So, the issue, of course, is, if that is too close to the roadway, then it doesn't make it much harder for them to plow. So, if we could compromise a little bit and also have an understanding in terms of, damage to it, and understanding that, in the future, if we are able to widen that road, that, the fence, we would not pay to replace the fence. That would be at the owner's cost. Is that something that you would be willing to consider.
I think that's absolutely reasonable.
So, you know, I think it's presently really, really close to the road. If it could come back, what would be better in terms of the park?
Unfortunately, I meant to make it down there today, because I figured that question was gonna be asked, and I got busy, didn't go down and physically measure it. Usually you got 3.5 feet
I think that's where it's
in
staying
the
now.
road edge, and I would say if he's in the neighborhood of 5-6 feet. The problem is when you get heavy snow removal, under normal circumstances, if we get a 2-3 inch snow that melts, it's really not a big deal. This year, we got that big one, and we had, if it gets too close, we got nowhere to put it, and it's gonna damage property. So we just gotta have some room out there.
The tricky part too is if this, and like I said, this is nothing towards you whatsoever, other than that's what I do for a living. When you allow to build outside the property line, then it's gonna be, we're gonna get a lot of people that now have a fence that had to put it on the property line. So just something to consider, but.
Understood. He is proposing to go, closer to his house than the fire fence does. I believe, isn't that pretty much correct? Aaron, do you recall?
Yeah, that other fence was pretty close, it was,
To the road.
yeah.
The other fence was about 6 inches from the road,
Yeah,
and the running bush behind it was well
I
outside.
was gonna say it was about a foot.
So if we can compromise on that,
The previous time we were having, mentioned the dispense out that way.
No, that's been there for, long, I've been down there, yeah.
You know, I have a problem with it, also the stipulation in that. As far as bringing it in a little bit further and having the understanding that the city's not responsible for that fence at all. And if the road is wide and it's not, if it's damaged, it's not ours, it's on you.
so is that a motion?
Yeah.
And Cameron, how do you feel about voting on this one?
I'm gonna abstain as well because I can't really vote for, I don't wanna.
So I will second.
Yeah, thank you.
Understood. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So thank you very much, Mr. Gibbs.
Just make sure we get it in writing.
Yes, we will
Get it in
get
writing.
something in writing, and, also if you and Aaron can kind of get together on, agree on where that one should go. Okay, I'm gonna move next to the, supplement one package from Butler, Fairman, and Seifert. And this was, as you know, we did get the community crossing expansion grant, for the 2022-1, for our first priority, which was Adams Street, so we did not get the full, grant. We'll need to be under contract for that within 4 months, which is a pretty tight timeline, to do design and bidding and get, yeah. I see gray hairs sprouting out of, face.
You see here, I'm like,
So, what we have is a supplement to the, proposal that we looked at before for them to do the submission for the community crossings grant application and the ADA compliance portion. So this supplement covers project management for the Adams Street project, topographic survey, stormwater design, utility coordination, and road design for $62,100. And not included in this is the actual bidding or the construction and inspection. Typically, you would expect that, you know, these aspects of the project for on the engineering and inspection side would be roughly 10% of the contract. And it looks like we're within that by the time we get the building and inspection piece added on. Is there a motion to approve the public hearing sector agreement?
Where's the $62,000 coming out of?
We need a motion.
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
I'll be abstaining.
I will second it. So we'll probably take this out of the rainy day unless we, we did, have to look at where we had said we would take the match. And now that we had less going into, the match piece of this, is we were gonna pull it out. And we just have to check those buckets, but if we don't have money left in those, then we would go to them again. Any other questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. And I am an aye, that motion carries. Okay. And then, the last, piece here is, yeah, the sale of property, city property, which is north of Monroe Street by, US 421. There are two city parcels there, that we placed in the, canal allocation area for the, residential TIF that was established last December. We had a party that has expressed interest in purchasing parcels for residential development. They're currently zoned industrial, and the city has requested them to be rezoned to urban one. And, that's on the agenda for the, May meeting of, the area plan. We have two appraisals that have been done as required to dispose of property in excess of $50,000. And I do have copies of those appraisals, which I will get out of my packet there in just a second. And so there will be a public meeting on May 16th at the Board of Works meeting, at which we will discuss the sale of the property. So there's no action that's required tonight. I just wanted to bring you up to speed on where we looked at that process.
No, it's published, correct? The public meeting part?
Yeah, the public meeting should be in tomorrow's paper.
Okay.
And there's also a timeline here as well. That's the timeline. Just that's really it for the docket. Are there any board comments or reports?
I just would like to thank the city for, I spoke with, Chief McCain about the parade, because I was inside making pancakes and didn't get to really get out of the station too much. I heard it went really well, and I heard the street department and, the county worked together on getting the roads taken care of, and all the kids made it to the field safe, and had good weather, and had a good day, so thanks to, everybody involved. Nothing but good words from everybody I talked to about it, so quick and to the point. And the railroad track was over. So, not a moment too soon. Friday night at 6, so thank you guys.
Clerk Roger, any public comments?
I have one, but I don't think you have time. You want me to go ahead?
Is it short?
I'm noticing on the claims that out of edit, $6,200 was paid to the Carroll County Economic Development Corporation for a hotel feasibility study. I'm wondering, a hotel where? I mean, I assume it's in Delphi, or maybe not.
5 possible locations, and 4 of those are the corners of the interchange. One is in between the interchange and downtown, actually 2 of the other sites were in between the interchange and downtown. One of them would be on the Burnbury property.
And so is EDC doing this actual feasibility study?
It's done. No, they didn't, it was a contract.
They contracted out, yeah.
There are companies that do that, so, and they're preparing performance now for 3 different types of hotels, 3 different hotel brands. And that will all be made available here very shortly. We've seen rough drafts of those reports, and they should be published shortly, and then they'll be available for anyone who would like to take a look at them.
Thank you.